Hey everyone, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I have with me Rob Braiman. He's a successful CEO and serial entrepreneur. Welcome to the show.
Jason, thanks for having me on today.
No problem. In today's episode, we're going to cover successful strategies to increase workplace productivity. And that couldn't have come at a better time because the pandemic, had forced people to work from home. And now they're starting to go back to the office. And so this is extremely timely. So let's first talk about entrepreneurs or business owners who want to grow their company. They're going to hire people, they're going to bring people on. How do they make the workplace productive? Because that's a tough thing,
Depending on what stage of growth you're at. If you're truly a startup and you're looking to hire that first group or first round of employees, that's going to be more process specific or operation specific, because a startup business, most often that business owner is wearing every hat. And those first hires are all about, I got to have somebody else grab my fire hose. Now, if you evolve a little bit as a business owner, now you're talking about strategic hiring. The real question is, in today's world, as people go back to work, what we're finding, and we represent people in 30 states, we're growing to all 50. Culture is so critically important. And, I'll stop right there so you can ask a bunch of questions about that. But ownership thinking and culture is really 21st century thinking, and we run into that a lot with our clients.
Yeah, and we can mention Google's "Don't Be Evil" culture, which turned out to be the opposite of what they were. And so, when you say culture, I mean we're talking, for example, in my startup, our culture is everybody's ideas are valuable. Everybody's voice has a place, a forum to give us what they think is best for the company. That, our vision and culture are kind of side by side. So how do you, as an entrepreneur or business owner, let's say you just have an idea, you have a business and you're running, but you don't know what your culture is. You don't know how to make a culture. What are the steps an entrepreneur should take in order to encapsulate and maybe write down what their culture is and how to project that to their employees?
Yeah, the interesting thing about entrepreneurs is really they are their business and the business are them, right? I usually make a joke out about that because to begin with, for the entrepreneur, I mean, you got to remember who these people are. They're honorable, they're decent, they're hardworking. Most people come out of a trade and really take that trade that they've learned, whether it's construction, manufacturing, transportation, some form of distribution or logistics, some form of technology. That first leap into entrepreneurship is really about who they are. Right. And it's about, small business owners love to say, hey, I want to work for myself. And very quickly they learn that they end up working for everybody else other than themselves. Right? Because you still gotta work for Uncle Sam. You still gotta work for the bank. You still gotta work for your people, which is really the question you're touching on today, Jason. That, I have had this conversation 10,000 times over the last 20 years about people ask me, well, Rob, how do I set up the right culture? And I don't mean to oversimplify the answer, but really it's who you are. For me and my companies, I've lived by a set of values: honor, courage, wisdom, faith, perseverance, and loyalty. And I always knew that. I came out of a SOCOM background. So, for me, I knew who I was as I was starting to build my company. And I'm old, fat, and gray now. So, things stick with you. And over time, you realize who you are. Yeah. And the best leaders.
So it seems like really it's an interpersonal philosophy almost. It sounds like you look in the mirror and you look at yourself and you say, who am I?
Who am I?
What business am I in? What feeling are people getting
What do you believe?
Yeah, like what are they exactly? What are they getting from this? Like what do they feel as though they're getting from this? And whatever those philosophies, I guess we can call them, are, is what your culture should kind of be built around. And then that goes into another part of, I guess culture is a strategy, but to increase workplace productivity, you have to not only have the culture and the vision, but you have to be able to manage the employees that are, following this culture and vision. So how do you manage the growth? Like, let's say you're starting out as maybe you're a brick and mortar store and you hire 2 employees. Now you have 2 brick and mortar stores and you have 10 employees. How do you manage that growth from 2 to 10 employees and then maybe 10 to 500 employees? Maybe you open a franchise, who knows?
Yeah, you touched on 2 really critical things, and you said manage, and then you said follow or lead. And, people try to smash those into one box, and most often you manage people or you manage process. Leadership is a different thing. Leadership is about inspiring other people to tack on to your vision, tack on to who you are and the message you're trying to build, right? That's about leadership. That's inspiring people to be the best version of themselves. So when you're small, and I said it before, everybody kind of grabs onto the fire hose. And really that is, from 0 to about $1 million, or 10 employees, there's a threshold there. And, that's where people are really trying to get their arms around, okay, how do I generate revenue? What type of people do I need to hire? You start using really ugly words like process, profit, managing a profit and loss statement. That's the science of business. And then you ask, okay, Rob, well, how do you scale from that $1 million? Because there's thresholds, Jason. It's
right.
It's about 1 to 3 million, and then you go from 3 to 5, 5 to 10 million, 10 million to about 20, and then not again. Like you'll reorganize your company at about $20 million on up to 50 million, and then the organization you put in place, you're much more mature. You're a clear definition for your market share. There's clear opportunity with leadership within your organization to drive revenue, drive mission, drive values. So let's scale it down, right?
Yeah, because I was going to say most people don't have a $50 million company, and if they are, they're probably wondering what they're going to do next, because that's got to be tough to run.
The lion's share of companies, although I think the values are the same, right? The guy and I have the privilege of working with, that $1 to $5 million client, and I have as many clients who are 20 million and above. So I see that whole journey in a holistic way. That 1 to 5 million, which is probably the bulk of your listeners, considering right, the largest percentage of privately held companies reside in that $1 to $5 million range. That is the small business owner today. And their challenges are really the same challenges. How do I find the right people? How do I make sure I got the right hats on the right head? How do I make sure that I'm really getting effective performance out of my people? That's about measurement, right? That's empowering people. I always say to people, measurement is not about you lording over them with a whole bunch of data. The idea of putting measurement in place is about employees understanding how they're being measured and then tying their remuneration or their comp to that measurement, right? You want them to take ownership of it, so you're not having to chase them around the building figuring out what they're doing.
Most of these are KPIs, which we can talk a little bit about. I'm in the middle of a startup where it's all about KPIs. Like when I pay an employee, whether it's stock options or cash, I always like to say that compensation has to translate into some sort of result.
Performance, you got it.
Performance-based stock options, and exactly. So, what if I pay someone, say $500, just to make this easy? Here's $500. What did the startup receive for that $500? Was it just some work you did, or was it
role specific?
User acquisition? Was it user acquisition? We received a couple of signups, Or did we receive, a press and media reach out from a journalist? What did we actually get for that $500? And when you put it into that perspective, they realize suddenly that the job they're doing, that the performance is being held accountable for. And that's when the kind of the light bulb goes off in their head that
that's
they can't.
The ownership thinking.
They can't putz around. They can't just be like, all right, I'm going to post some stuff on social media and then I get paid for it. No. What did we get for those posts?
That's right. Yeah, and I'm going to put it in official terms, right? You get core compensation and you get variable compensation, because most people are not going to go to work unless they're in sales. People think of 100% commission jobs. Well, in the world today, 100% commission, unless there is a real runway to getting paid big, most people want that base. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of clients that fight this burden every single day of every single week of every single month, right?
Of course.
Now, you can do 100% variable comp, but you also have to be aware that that person that's going to sign up for 100% variable comp understand the obligation of that. Most employees want to have some tangible earnings and a benefit package. Set those aside. That's the privilege of coming to work for you.
Incentives. You want to incentivize them.
You got it. Now, keep in mind that you have the privilege of their employment. There is always a consensus relationship. A lot of small business owners say, they take a posture and says, hey, you work for me, I'm paying you. And that's where you get into that cultural discussion again, where really employees absolutely have as much equity and right to decide where they want to work today, especially in a really tight marketplace.
Yep.
So
if you're not treating them, and if you're not treating them well, someone else will treat them better.
Somebody else will. That's right. Okay, so fair comp as a base. But then the variable comp, and you touched on it, right? KPIs, key performance indicators, those are really the driving forces behind that ownership thinking. If you work for me, you, Jason, and you say, okay, Rob needs these 5 things from me every day, and I've got measurement on my 5 things. He doesn't keep in his pocket. He doesn't hide it away in a desk drawer. This is something that I'm living every day, and I'm trying to accomplish a task. Now what Rob did is he agreed with Jason. Jason, if you're a mediocre employee, you're going to get X. If you're a good employee, you're going to get Y. If you're a rock star, now you're going to get
Z.
Right?
I'm a Z guy.
And everybody, right? Most people go to work are good people. What the gap is do we communicate what's expected, and is there a fair contribution for that ownership thinking that we've been talking about? Well,
we also have to. That falls into a category where you have to set realistic expectations. Like a lot of times, if you expect employees who may not have the most expert skill sets in certain areas that you need, right, and you're like, well, I need this, and this, and they're like, I'll try, but I might have to learn how to do that, or I might have to figure it out. But you're expecting like you said, the Z or rock star results, and you might only be getting, backstage, the cable guy results, so not the rock star. So that's right. So setting expectations, the goals, they have to be realistic, or else it's going to fall apart.
So let's encapsulate, right? We talked about culture today, right? Setting the right mission, vision, values for your company. What do you believe? Who are you? How do you get other people to buy into what you're doing? Did you create the right environment for them? And I'll tell you, I see so many times, Jason, where you take that, A employee and a C employee, you put them in the same room and pay them the same thing. Do you really think the C employee, if they're getting absolutely the exact same dollar, do you think the C employee is going to be inspired to become an A? Or do you think over time that A suddenly becomes a C?
Right.
Because I'm not making anything different than the C guy. I'm working 10 hours a day. This guy comes in for 8 and probably works 4, and we get paid the exact same dollar.
Yep.
Right.
Makes
I
sense.
see that over and over again, right? People work down to the lowest common denominator unless you give them an environment where they're rewarded for their behavior. You're communicating well with them. You've created an ownership thinking through good culture. Now you're really driving a performance-based organization. And I hate to say there's a secret sauce, because there's not, but time and time again, we see a lot of business owners get stuck because they don't give away the hat, right? They're afraid to empower their people, and they really don't put in the right type of culture, compensation. I time and again will hire somebody and hold on to that person that really is that seed.
Well said. So if you want to learn how to manage growth and increase productivity from Rob, where do people go and find out what you guys do?
Cogentanalytics.com is the easiest way. Just so everybody knows, we don't sell your data, right? In today's world, there's always that call to action on a website, and nobody fills them out because everybody thinks you're going to take their data and resell it to somebody else. I can promise your listeners, if you genuinely want to talk to an advisor, fill out the call to action. We will have a real professional reach out to you, and we will talk you through some of the challenges you might be facing in your business. There's a lot of information on our website. We've got white papers, case studies, articles. Sweet. That is designed for the entrepreneur. So, Sweet. We do all that passive stuff out there so that information is available to the entrepreneurial community.
Perfect. Thanks, Rob. I appreciate it, and hope everyone listening or watching learned something valuable. Check out cogentanalytics.com for more information. And as always, I'll see you in the next episode.